you doing? So today I'm feeling a bit emotional, and I feel this way because I'm about to share a story with you that I've never before shared on any platform whatsoever. And I'm sharing the story here today because I've come to realize that every battle I fight and win is ultimately a source of inspiration or encouragement for someone else who is probably passing through the same situation at the time, or who will pass through the same situation at another given time. All right. So when I was a little over 5 years old, I had just come back from school. At the time, it was a ritual for me to do my homework in my dad's office, because my dad did not have children for 16 years. And so when he had me, I was definitely daddy's girl, and he always wanted me around him. So I had just concluded my homework and I was headed home. My home and my office, my dad's office, were in the same building. So I was running back home and I tripped over something and I fell. It wasn't too serious a fall, but I fell hand first, okay? So I landed on my hand, and it was hurtful. And so I ran into the house and I told my stepmom about it, and she just panicked. And she's like, oh, you know what? We have to go to the hospital. And so we went to the hospital. And when we got there, the doctor assessed the hand and decided to bandage it. Now, I do not know if he did that innocently or carelessly, but then he had bandaged the hand way too tight for a little girl. And so in another 3 days, I sensed some serious discomfort in the hand and had complained about it. And when they took out the bandage, they realized that the hand was almost gangrene. So what had happened was the bandage was way too tight, like I already mentioned earlier. And so there was a shortage of supply of blood to the part of the hand that had the bandage in it. And so because of the lack of blood flow, the hand was going bad, for want of a better word. So that was the beginning of the craziest days of my life. And we just started to look for solutions. And so we had gone to the hospital and they said, you know what, this hand is infected. And if you don't do something about it now, it's going to go ahead and infect other parts of the body. And what could have been avoided with a simple elbow amputation will probably become a shoulder, just a lot of scary things. You could cut off the hand from the shoulder, or, it could affect the other hand. I could cut off this and cut off that. And my dad was just straight up stubborn. He said, you know what? I haven't had a child in 16 years. And now I have a child. There is no way in God's green earth we are cutting her hand off. There has to be something that we can do. And so we went from hospital to hospital. We tried all sorts of medications. We even did local traditional medicine at some point. One time we went to one of those local messieurs, for want of a better word. And this man was trying to massage the hand because the hand was stuck in this position, right? So he was trying to massage it to straighten out, and he broke the hand. So the hand just went like that. And it was just serious. And everybody just kept saying, well, cut this hand, cut it off. It's going to cause more trouble. But my parents were not having it. So we finally got to the Enugu Teaching Hospital, and they told us the doctor who was there said, you know what? This hand is so far gone, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open it up on both sides and see if life is restored to the hand. Now, if life is restored, then we'll begin to stitch it back up. If not, then we're going to cut it off. At that time, everybody was spent. So we're like, okay, last resort, at least we have some form of hope. And I was in that hospital for quite some months. And after some time, one day I was lying in bed. I was sleeping in the bed. My aunt, who was taking care of me at the time, was lying in bed with me as well. And I said, "Oh, auntie, my hand is paining me. Shift, you're lying on my hand." And she's like, "What? Can you feel it? Can you feel it?" And I'm like, "Yes, you're lying on my hand." I was like, "Oh my God, doctor!" And so she ran and she called the doctor. The doctor came in and checked the hand, like, "You can feel something." I said, "Yes." And so they started to work on the hand from there. Life gradually got restored to the hand, and they finished up the surgeries, and I was cleared to go home, and everybody was just so happy. And yeah, that's how my hand got saved. And so even though my hand got saved, I got left with this big crazy scar. Now I'm sharing this story for two reasons, right? And not just for the fun of it, but for the purpose of learning two very important lessons that I learned. One, is the power of self-confidence. Now, for a long time, I was very, very insecure. I was so insecure that I would not go anywhere if I didn't have long sleeves on. I was so insecure that I didn't want to be the center of attraction anywhere. I didn't want to wear anything that would put me in a situation where people are going to ask me, what happened to your hand? I just wanted to hide away and just be a normal person. I just was very timid, frustrated, and I just could not wait till I was old enough to do a plastic surgery and just cover up the scar. And those were very crazy times. Those were very, very hard times. It's just me thinking about it is making me emotional. And there are just many things that I could have achieved, many things I could have done as a child, as a young girl, that I did not do because I was ashamed of the scar on my hand. But the reason I'm sharing this is because apparently you can see that I moved from that person who was self-aware, who was not confident, to the person who went on to contest in beauty pageants. When I was in my second year in school, I contested for Miss Lincoln's, that was my department's beauty pageant, and I came out second runner-up. And trust me, there were more beautiful girls, there were lovely girls there, but I just stood out. I was just too smart and too confident to be ignored. And I was second runner-up with my scar, and I didn't have to hide it. And then I went on to contest for Miss Niger Delta, I think a year later. And even when I did not win, I realized that everywhere we had to go to for our courtesy visits, I was the one who was selected to stand up and speak to the dignitaries, you know, represent the group, speak to them, talk to them about what we're here for. I just could not be ignored. And after the event, the organizer said to me, you know, I feel obligated to tell you this because you are an asset to this competition, but you just could not have won because of the scar. We didn't even know about the scar. And you know, it's a beauty pageant, you're going to have to represent us in different places. And it made sense to me because, I mean, the scar is really large and you don't want to steal the attention with everybody asking, why, what happened to your hand, and all of that. But the good news is, 2 years later, I was the one hosting Miss Niger Delta, and the year after that, because I just could not be ignored. I have more stories. Now, in 2016, towards the tail end of 2016, Linda Ikeji TV put out its audition posters for TV presenters, and we're way over 300 people that had, you know, come to audition for the role, and only 7 people were selected. And guess who was one of the 7? Me, with my scar. Not just that, I was the only person who was selected from outside of Lagos. And the first time I had a meeting with Linda Ikeji, she said, you would not find someone else in Lagos. Like, why do people have to go and bring someone from Port Harcourt? You know? And it just made me feel so special. And you'll be wondering what changed. The one thing that changed for me was replacing my fear with self-confidence. And that's just it. That's the very first lesson that I'll have you learn, because it was the very first lesson I learned. One day, it occurred to me that where I should have been grateful for the fact that I have a hand and I can hold a microphone and I can write and I can use this hand quite normally, where it could have been amputated, I was worried about a scar. It occurred to me that I had been ungrateful for what God had done for me by saving my hand. It occurred to me that for the scar I have, in its place could have been no hand. It occurred to me that I had a lot to be grateful for. And it was at that point that I exchanged my fear and my insecurities and my lack of self-confidence with the confidence that I now have that cannot be broken by anything, anywhere. And now, if I have to tell more stories, only recently, MultiChoice had the audition for Ultimate Love reality TV show, and only 23 people were selected, and I was one of them. Now, if I had to brag just a little bit, there is no way that you will call 5 contestants off the top of your head and you would not call my name. With my scar. I've hosted events in different parts of Nigeria. I've hosted events. I've spoken in places where I never thought, on stages I never thought I would speak at, with my scar. Because I exchanged fear with confidence. Now that's one lesson. The second lesson I learned is the value of your story. Now when I was in GS2, I was a new girl. I changed to a new school. I was a new girl at a new school, and I had come in late in the term. So you know how it is. You're just that, new girl. Everybody's already settled in. They know themselves, and you just don't know anybody. You're just in the corner. And someone had come to me and had seen the scar on my hand and asked me about it. And I started to tell her the story. And before I knew it, everyone had gathered, almost everyone in the class had gathered around me to hear the story of what happened to my hand. It made no sense to me at the time. It makes sense to me now. That same thing that was sort of my shame, that made me want to hide away, the same thing that made me want to, hide my head or wear long sleeve or cover up or just, be in the corner, was the same thing that was putting me on a stage, the same thing that people wanted to hear about. And now I walk into a room and I cannot be ignored, because if you don't sense my aura and my self-confidence, then you will see my scar and you would ask me about it, and I would tell you my story, and you would wonder how someone with so large a scar is standing here and stealing the show. The thing that differentiates you from the amputee, or rather the reason why an amputee who sells the same akara that you sell is on the front pages of a newspaper or, trending on some social media platform, is because of her story. It's the power in identifying your story and telling it. The reason why I will be selected to speak at a TEDx conference, the reason why I'll be paid to speak to young girls on how to boost their confidence, the reason why I'll be paid to speak on stages, is because I have a story that would move people from where they are to where they need to be. It's the power of identifying and telling your story. I could have still been down. I could have still been the person who hides her head, but I'm not that person anymore. And there's nothing in God's green earth that will break my confidence. Oh, there is no way I'll walk into a room and you would not notice me. No way. No way that I would not stand out in the crowd, even with my scar. So sincerely, I'm not here to brag about my achievements. I'm here to pull you out of your hiding place, because I wonder for how long you can actually hide. I don't know what your scar is. Maybe you have crazy acne and your face is full of spots, or maybe your whole leg's full of spots, or maybe you had an amputation, or maybe you have a scar as big as mine, bigger or smaller. I do not know. But one thing I know for sure, and I always say, is that God is never taken by surprise. You are the way you are with the scar that you have for a reason, and there are lives attached to yours. And if you don't come out of your hiding place and stand on the pedestal and do what God has called you to do, those lives might be affected, and God is going to ask for it at your hand when you get to heaven. So you have two options. It's either you come out and live the life that God has called you to live, or you die wondering if there could have been more to your life. And I'm here to tell you that there is more. So enough of hiding away, enough of the shame, enough of the despondence, enough of putting yourself down because you have a scar or something that you're ashamed of. Nobody is perfect. I repeat, nobody is perfect. We all have one thing or the other that could cause or be a source of shame to us. But only you can determine how you were perceived and how you were received. Only you can determine how your story is told. So you can take that thing that causes you shame and turn it to the story that inspires millions of people around the world, so that they can know that if she can do it, then I can too. If he can do it, I can too. And that is why I'm here today. I'm here telling this story that I would not have liked to tell, because somebody somewhere will watch it and say to themselves, if Preshtalker can do it, I can too. And that's why I share the story. So move. Do something.